Hey everybody, Stinger here. I want to invite you to a pretty cool podcast.
Watch this film. It's quite nice. Have a good time. You'll be very evil. And you'll have that Danhausen.
Hey, this is Big Sexy Kevin Nash.
Yes, it is I, Big E, but more importantly, it is you.
And you might remember me from such YouTube greats as Being the Elite and Chris Daniels Almost Dies.
And if you're looking for the very best wrestling content, you better come to Good Mic Work Commentary.
And I'm just going to tell you now, as a role model, you got to tune into this because if you also want to be a role model, you got to learn from the best.
We have a rapport, and we have been so close over so many years. This is not a cameo or a paid endorsement in any regard. This is a message of friendship.
Man, we met 20 years ago, 21 years ago now. Time is flying, isn't it?
I want to wish you all the best in your YouTube channel, and hopefully I can maybe make a special guest appearance on there sometime.
And I used to say, hey, Greg Morgan, and he used to say, please call me Greg, and I wouldn't do it.
Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Awesome YouTube channel. Now, if you've seen these videos before, you know what I'm talking about.
We would do verbal chain wrestling. You know, we'd be off in the yard, the schoolyard at recess.
And he's also a 40-year-old wrestling fan. That's a long damn time.
And we'd just be staring at each other, and he'd say, hammerlock. And I'd say, all right, I've reversed the hammerlock into a hammerlock of my own, then I put you in a headlock. And, you know, that would go on for hours.
He's not going to fill your head with bullshit. He's going to tell you real deal, what's up, and that's that.
Raw, SmackDown, NXT. This guy covers it all, my friends. I want you to go to his page, Good Mic Work on YouTube.
Check out Good Mic Work Commentaries on YouTube.
But we would have fun. We would run around. There would be a wooden hoop we would hit with a stick, and it would go down a hill.
I'm about to go and watch a few videos myself.
It's a very practical apparatus.
We're really lacking in the world right now with some people that have a freaking brain cells.
And now look at him. He has more YouTube views and subscribers than I do, and I'm fine with it because I played such an integral role in his upbringing.
Don't you dare be sour.
We always talked about wrestling. He was a big Lou Thez guy, and of course I had an affectation for the Hackenschmidts.
Clap for Good Mic Work Commentaries.
This is RJ City, a wrestling rock on tour.
And feel the
Listen to the podcast. Subscribe.
You are watching Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Just want to encourage all you guys to check out Good Mic Work Commentaries.
And if you don't, we're going to have a problem.
Do it!
Do it.
Do it now!
Thanks a lot for the encomium and the nice words about my father's Hall of Fame induction.
Hope our paths cross again sometime down the road. Would love to shake your hand again, and good luck on this podcast.
And you don't just watch it one time. You can rewatch every single one of them.
And now, Good Mic Work Commentaries and Greg Morgan presents the Winged Eagle Podcast.
Happy Saturday. Welcome, everyone, back to the channel, and welcome to your final Winged Eagle podcast before WrestleMania. What's going on? March 25th, 2023. We are 1 week away from WrestleMania. Night one kicks off 7 days, almost exactly from right this very moment. And we have got a lot to talk about as we head into this final week of WrestleMania prep and WrestleMania build and the Raw and SmackDown Go Home shows, plus the Raw and SmackDown we saw this past week. The card is finally coming together. A few unanswered questions still in terms of main event, match placement, things like that. But some questions have been answered. For instance, we know what's going to open up night one, but we're really not sure where a lot of these matches are still going to be placed. And some wrestlers, we don't even know what their full WrestleMania status is going to be. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to open up the podcast and say this. I do not believe that Bobby Lashley will be relegated to the Andre the Battle Royal Andre the Giant Battle Royal on SmackDown, and that's it. I fully expect and believe that he will have a match, a moment, or a segment of some kind at WrestleMania. And you know what? That goes for LA Knight as well. It's in the city that he's named after. Los Angeles Knight should have some sort of a segment on WrestleMania as well. So those issues, along with everything else surrounding WrestleMania, Cody, Roman, Charlotte, Rhea, Usos, Owens, Zayn, Roman, Cody, so much to talk about. We'll be discussing all of that, dissecting it, picking it apart here in this episode. And then next week, we will be back with our final video predictions right before the big weekend. So the news portion of today's podcast is going to be centered heavily around what happened a couple of days ago with CM Punk posting that Instagram story and then immediately deleting it. But once it was up there, and it was loaded with a bunch of great information. Fightful selected an excellent write-up on this yesterday, which I will detail as well, going over some of these issues, heat, drama, and now it's starting to look like, again, that CM Punk will not be back in the company. I said right from the start, I don't see a scenario where this guy can come back in and it could work. But as the months kept going by and hints being teased and being dropped, it started to seem like he actually might come back. And now all of that's been completely undone again with what we learned from that Instagram story, what Meltzer said, and what Fightful Select reported on yesterday. So we will kind of look at that whole situation and see where that leaves us with Tony Khan, CM Punk, the Elite, AEW, all that stuff in general. Plus, this past week's Dynamite was pretty damn good, setting up a big feud with the BCC and the Elite. Don Callis is up to some shady shit in that as well. And the amazing main event dream match that a lot of fans had their panties all in a wad about between Kenny Omega and Vikingo, which was absolutely unreal. Unreal match. Cannot believe what I saw on Wednesday. So we're going to talk match results here a little bit. Raw, SmackDown, Dynamite. We'll go over a general idea of what went on those shows, and we're going to preview the full WrestleMania card. We're going to talk about CM Punk. We're going to talk about Vince McMahon, who's entered a reimbursement agreement with WWE to pay back all of his boner money. We have some sad news on Josh Alexander. We have news on Alexa Bliss, AEW's Saturday show that's coming up, and maybe a couple of other news tidbits as well, but it's going to be primarily focused around WrestleMania and everything surrounding the big show coming up in just 1 week in LA that I will be attending. That's why we're not going to have a Winged Eagle next week for a couple of weeks, because I'm going to be at the show. So you're going to get me tonight. You're going to get me tomorrow. You might get me Monday, and I'm going to be back here Thursday with predictions, but we will go through all of this week's schedule in just a second. But I want to say hello to everybody first. Let me get my monitor a little closer to me so I can read some of the chime-ins there, because I got my notes here and I've got the chat over here. But I want to welcome all the channel members that might be here right now. I'm just going to say hi to everybody, then roll through what to expect from me tomorrow, Monday, and next week leading up to WrestleMania. We'll do some shout-outs, and then we will get into CM Punk, because that's the big story and that's the juiciest story. But I want to shout out the channel members first. Red Raven Rucker, Tatanani, Population 420 is in the house. So is Mab, Isaac, How Wheezy, good to see you, my friend. We also have Ronnie Mike is here as well. Ian Dunn and Luke McAllister chiming in early with a very generous $10, I believe. What's up, Greg? I really want Cody Rhodes to beat Roman Reigns. It feels like he is the perfect choice, and he is massively over. Also, down with your idea of Rhea Ripley squashing Charlotte Flair. That's what I want. And we're going to talk about Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair in a minute, but last week I went on quite the rant, kind of getting on people's cases that were freaking the fuck out over the idea that these two might main event night one. And I was explaining why, yes, the tag match is the best story. It should be in the main event. But if it's not the end of the world, and it's certainly not going to damage the match between the Usos, Zayn, and Owens. If anything, it's going to damage Rhea Ripley and Charlotte, because as we've seen in previous WrestleManias where there's a big, crazy match like Shawn and Taker or Rock and Hogan in the undercard, a lot of times the main event can't live up to that and it falls flat. So if anybody's going to be harmed by this, it's going to be Rhea and Charlotte, not the Usos and Sami Zayn. However, here we are 1 week later, and there is still zero confirmation about anything regarding night one. So a lot of the panic that the fans are having, what, Charlotte in another main event? And they're just going all up in arms. It might be for nothing, because nothing's been announced yet. WWE may very well put the tag team title match in the main event. And then if it is, wasn't all that freaking out for nothing? You know what I mean? So let's just be patient and see where all of these matches are going to land. We should have a pretty good idea of where everything's going to be by the end of next week. I think Logan Paul and Seth Rollins is also booked for night 1. So we know Cena in theory, Rollins and Paul night 1, and all we have for night 2 so far is Cody and Roman, and probably Bianca and Asuka. So nothing is set in stone yet, but we will talk about it, Luke. And yeah, I'm loving my squash idea. That's what Rhea Ripley needs to do. Smash that girl over. Somebody like Charlotte, all her value, all her equity, she can easily afford a loss like that. Just like John Cena could afford it back in 2014 when he lost to Brock at SummerSlam. It's the same thing. It wouldn't do anything to damage the legacy or the career of Charlotte Flair in any way, and it would launch Rhea Ripley into a level of holy shit. She just beat handily WWE's most decorated champion in women's history in their company. So that is a pretty big deal, and that's what I'm rooting for Rhea Ripley. I'm on your side with that. Luke, Population 420, gifting out a membership. Gifted one good Mike Work Commentaries membership. I wish I knew how those worked. Okay, you gave it to Queasy. Okay, cool, nice. Thanks for hooking Queasy up. That is very, very cool. I do like that you guys can gift memberships to other people. We've only had a couple of them happen here on the channel so far. So Population, you're a good man. You're a good man. Queasy, enjoy your membership. To Juliet, it's good to see you as well. Who else is in the house? We have Isaac, member for 7 months. By the way, I'm in the process as we speak of changing up some of the member stuff, changing up some of the perks. I'm also going to be recording a new membership video, letting you guys know some of the things we're going to do, and try to do a few more members-only perks for you guys. Working on that right now, along with all of the other changes currently happening on the channel. But thanks again, Isaac, for being here. Crazy to think a year ago we saw Triple H place his boot in the ring, and his boots in the ring, and retire. Now, a year later, he's planning WrestleMania. What a difference. I really did like last year when Triple H came out and kind of symbolically retired, because we know he can't have a final match due to his heart condition. And for him to kind of end his career right there to open up WrestleMania last year was a good moment for some fans that, always liked Triple H. I always did, even during his reign of terror years. Overall, even though those years didn't please me very much, I was still a Triple H fan at the end of the day. I never had the hate for him that a lot of fans did. I always had his back, and I was always a Triple H fan, and that was a good moment for me and maybe a lot of other fans of Triple H last year when he did that. Now, he's in full control of booking this whole thing, and we'll see how Triple H's first WrestleMania really looks. We'll find out in 1 week. I'm going to find out in person, which I'm really happy about. Let me see. K-Dog's Kennel is also in the house, gifting memberships left and right. Well, y'all are in a festive mood tonight. K-Dog, I owe you a DM as well. K-Dog's going to be sponsoring a video coming up pretty soon, and I am going to be adding in upcoming videos. We're working on that right now as well. We're going to be doing some super chat amounts in the description that's going to give you all sorts of tiers of things you can do, chat, and get in return for those once you're if you're interested. So once I get that finished, that will be in the description, and we'll have that information out to you guys probably right after WrestleMania, but I'm still trying to finish up some of the changes I wanted to make on the channel for 2023. Still working on them. But good to see a K-Dog's Kennel as always. Zach Palgett is in the house. Oh, look at there. Kevin hooked up Ben Espinoza. That's cool. Ben, welcome to the family, my friend. Who else is here? Deshaun Robinson's in the house. Nice. So is Mike. Brock versus Bobby fight pitch should have been at Mania. I agree. It sucks for Bobby Lashley and Brock, really, that they didn't have their blow off at WrestleMania. Instead, they put both of these guys in two completely pointless matches. Brock and Omos. Oh my God, what are we going to see in that thing? And then Lashley and Bray Wyatt completely fell through. They should have just stuck with Lashley and Brock. And that's why I think possibly Lashley could interfere in Brock and Omos. Forgot who it was on Twitter, gave me a great idea. What if Lashley on Friday? Because I think if Lashley's in the Andre the Giant Battle Royal, he needs to win it. Some people said Solo Sikoa should win. I think that's awesome. But with Lashley in it, how can you not put Lashley over? I think Lashley wins the Battle Royal, shows up at WrestleMania and says, I'm here to fight somebody. I won the Battle Royal. I'm not going to come to WrestleMania and not beat the shit out of somebody. I want an opponent. I want somebody. I want anybody. Whoever's back there that wants a piece of the Almighty One, come to the ring. I hear voices in my head. Out comes Randy Orton. And we get Orton and Lashley one-on-one. And Orton wins. Fine. You got to bring back Orton in some big way. But what if LA Knight and Lashley both came out and they're both pissed, right? Neither one of us have matches. This is horseshit. And the first person to come out is Riddle. Riddle comes scooting out there. So I only have one of me, but there's two of you. I think I have a friend. And then he introduces Randy Orton. RK Bro is back. They go in the ring. They defeat Bobby Lashley and LA Knight. They celebrate with a hug in the middle of the ring. All the fans are happy. And then bam, RKO to Riddle out of nowhere. Riddle and Randy are pushed into a program for the summer. Maybe you do that. Triple H is likely to have some fun. Somebody mentioned maybe LA Knight coming out to the ring and calling out Stone Cold Steve Austin. Maybe not for a match, but maybe a segment, a yeah versus a what, might be kind of fun. So I am not convinced that we are going to be disappointed when it comes to whatever Lashley does or LA Knight does at WrestleMania. I think both of them can find something fun to do. If they're both completely absent from the show and left off completely, that's going to be a monumental disappointment. And I just don't think Triple H would do either one of those guys like that, especially Lashley, when he was already booked for a Mania match and by no fault of his own is now canceled. So that's not his fault. So he should still be able to find something to do at WrestleMania, you would think. So that's my thought on Bobby Lashley. But for those freaking out, pissed off, this is bullshit that he's in the Andre the Giant Battle Royal. No, it's not. It's not going to be bullshit if he wins it and then shows up at WrestleMania and does something too. It's not bullshit. It's great. So let's just chill, see what happens before we jumping off bridges. Zach, I'm not sure if I got you or not, but welcome as well. Also want to hit up a shout out on Ratnick and Rodrigo, Sean Ireland, Martin Tomlinson, Lex is in the house as well. T85 Restored is here. We have AJ Daniels. Nice to see you. Who else is here? Deshaun, did I get you? I think I did. Sonic Plays is here as well. Welcome. Nate Burgeon, Dave Sims. We've got Mohammed is in the house. Right on. William Cullen. Big J is here. Nicola, Stephen Taylor, whole bunch of people. Let's get into some quick shout outs here. I want to shout out all of the current channel members right now on Good Mic Work Commentaries. Thank you for your many, many months of support here on the channel. You guys are great. Deshaun Robinson, Motown Slim, Ramon Coffey, Ian Dunn, Leo Whalen, Big Mike ATP, Jennifer, Mike, Chaz Medeiros, Ken Webb, Titanium Titan, Mango Salsa, Josiah Blevins, Kevin Casey, Kevin Casey, Red Raven Rucker, then another Kevin, MJ Parker, Ruben Litton, lost my place, Fox Star Killer, The Juliet, Brandon Collier, Alan Carter, Zach Pauget, Dre, Sean 2018, Brandon, Jordan Card, Financial Truth Academy, Devlin Husband, Trent, Mike Tong, Longboard, Jeff McMahon, Mikey Too Cool, Luke McAllister, Tar Brehan, Zelius Ward, William, Bo Clav Lovick, Al Ramos Pro, Zach H., Chris Miner, Mike Witt, Jimmy Anderson, C-Mac, Mab, Joshua Aparicio, How, Wheezy, Spaz Phoenix, Ronnie, Nicole Lensing, Marcus the Entertainer, Nikita Abalakin, Divine Ricks, Zane G., Chris Barrera, Michael Kumo, John J.E. Dennett, S. Tatanani, Nick Musser, K-Dog Skennel, Max Pokebra, Spectra, Reese Jones, Victor, Jose, Isaac, George Morris, Population 420, JJ Leg. Thank you guys, as always, for being members and being a part of the family over here. Also, shout out to all of the patrons, supporters on the Patreon page right now. Kenny Ward, Anthony Del Prete, Paul Carpenter, John Dennett, William, Brandon Allen, Ramon Coffey, Zach Pauget, Joseph Hudson, Chris Cray, Chris Broski, MJ Parker, Caitlin Scott, Shane, Jordan Hendricker. We have, making sure. Oh, wait, hold on. Let's start over. Kenny Ward, Anthony, Paul Carpenter, John, William, Brandon Allen, Ramon Coffey, Joseph Hudson, Chris Broski, Define Ricks, Ryan, Nikita Abalakin, Chris Miner, Super Fluffy Toaster, Alan Carter, Brandon Yelverton, Nick Musser, K-Dogs Kennel, Ryan Y., Colin Sturcio, John Rediver, Claudio Clavedetcher, Daniel Rodriguez, Reese Jones, Josiah Blevins, John Riffle, Michael Kumo, Navid, and Blake Moran. Thanks for everything over on the Patreon channel. I did not put in the active patrons. That's why I had to start over there. And also, there is some content on the Patreon account right now. We're putting up videos, reactions of some of the reactions we're doing on Sundays. And I'm pairing those up with the actual footage, putting them on my Vimeo account, and then putting them on Patreon full and clean for your viewing enjoyment. And then over on Bald Guy Wrestling, I've got edited versions of those that you can watch completely for free. But tomorrow, we will have some more content on there because tomorrow we have a double header watch-along planned right here on Good Mic Work Commentaries. We're going to be here for a long time tomorrow doing 2, count them, watch-alongs. The first one will be in the afternoon, 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific. We're going to do a members-only members only watch along of the night after WrestleMania 14, March 30th, 1998, Monday Night Raw. That is the final night of the Winged Eagle belt when Vince McMahon presents Austin with the new Big Blue. We also have DX forming their new version of DX that night with Triple H at the helm, bringing back X-Pac and adding the New Age Outlaws in that cage match main event. A lot of stuff going down on that show. We're going to watch that tomorrow afternoon just for members. Then later on that night at normal watch along time, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific, we're going to do a live public watch along of WrestleMania 14. So the night after WrestleMania 14 during the day, and then WrestleMania 14 itself at night. And of course, that is Austin and Michaels and Tyson. It's Taker and Kane. It's Owen and Hunter. A lot of crazy things went down on that show. It did win the poll barely over WrestleMania 8 by like 1 percentage point. So it's going to be a day filled with 1998. It's going to be a 1998 themed Sunday tomorrow. So hopefully you can join us. The links to both of these watch-alongs are on the page right now or on the channel. I did not put them in the description below, but you can go to the YouTube channel and you'll see them right up there for tomorrow. Also, I have a link up for this coming Thursday. This Thursday, we're going to be doing WrestleMania predictions, 6 Eastern, 3 Pacific. The link is on my channel to that as well. Again, nothing in the description. It's all on the channel. So just go over there, save those links for later on this week. And yeah, on Thursday, we'll be here to run down the entire WrestleMania card, predict every single match in their entirety, and we'll really get into it deep before I hop in the car the very next day and head to WrestleMania. Speaking of WrestleMania, I'm going to be in town Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and a lot of you have expressed interest in joining the meetup. So we are going to be doing a fan meetup for those who are going to be in the LA area on Friday night, 1 week from last night, Friday, March 31st, night before WrestleMania. We are going to be meeting near Staples Center. We're going to be meeting at the Yard House Restaurant and Bar. It's about a block away from Staples. We're going to be meeting there about 7 p.m. in the evening. We're going to go in there and try to get a table or an area in the bar and a little gathering where we can hang out and have some drinks or have some beverages, have some food, whatever. We're going to be doing that around 7 p.m. SmackDown will just be wrapping up and the Hall of Fame will be starting when we're over there. So if you have things to do, if you're going to Ring of Honor, if you're going to another indie show, if you're going to be going to SmackDown or the Hall of Fame, you probably got time to stop by after the fact and still join us if you would like. So it's going to be at the Yard House around Staples Center. Just Google it. You'll see it's about a block away. Come join us there on Friday night. Anytime after 7 p.m., we'll be there. We'll probably have a gathering of anywhere from 5 to 15 to 20 people. I don't really know. We're definitely going to have a minimum of a handful, but it might balloon into more than that depending on who stops by. So if you're interested, please come say hello. Otherwise, you can catch me at WrestleCon. I'll be at WrestleCon Saturday and Sunday afternoon prior to WrestleMania. And if you don't see me there, then maybe you can catch me at the show as well at SoFi. Just shoot me a DM on Twitter or social media if you're there. Hey, Greg, I want to say hi. I want to give you a high five. Let's meet up. I'll do my best to find you, or you guys can come find me at my seat or whatever. Either way, I have a feeling I'm going to be meeting a whole lot of you WrestleMania weekend, and I'm stoked. And I'm really stoked for WrestleCon. It's going to be my first wrestling convention. I've never been to one. And I bought the super fan tickets for me and Elizabeth, so it looks like we have full access to do whatever we want. But I've never been, so you guys can help me out with what I might need. Do I need cash? Is that something I should have on me, cash? Like if I want to buy merch, buy anything there, that's probably something I need, right? I don't really know what I need to be prepared for in these things, but if you guys have any advice for me or you've been to WrestleCons in the past, let me know. Any helpful hints or tips. And if you're going to be there, let's hang out. Let's say hello. It's going to be a blast. I need to start getting my energy up, start eating my Wheaties, and start getting ready for one long weekend of boogieing because it's going to be a long one, and I'm stoked. So once I get back from WrestleMania, it'll probably be 3 to 4 days, and I will get a full WrestleMania experience video up detailing my experience, tons of footage. Any of you that I meet that we happen to get pictures of or footage, I'm going to share, and I'm going to have a big WrestleMania video hitting the channel whenever I can get that finished and edited and uploaded. So I would say no later than a week, no later probably than 2 weeks from today. I'm hoping that that video will be on YouTube, and you guys can see what kind of time I had at WrestleMania 39. Going to be my third WrestleMania I've ever been to, and my first WrestleMania since WrestleMania 15 in Philly way back in 1999, 24 years ago. I'm stoked. I'm ready. It's almost here. So that should do it for the shout outs, the BS, the scheduling stuff. Oh, one more little tidbit. If you guys are a fan or you know who Just Alex is, I'm going to be a guest on his channel on Monday. We're going to talk about WrestleMania. I think I'm predicting it with him. I'm actually not even sure what time we're doing that. I know it's probably around this time on Monday, but go to his channel, check it out. I think the link is already posted. He posted it on social media as well. The start time is on there. Not sure when, but I'm going to be a guest on his channel on Monday to talk WrestleMania. So you'll get me. You just won't get me over here. You got to go find me. So look around. You'll catch me on the tube on Monday afternoon. And that should do it for all the BS. I'll stop boring you guys now because we have stuff to get into. Let me just cruise over here and make sure I'm not missing any other stuff. And we will get into the wrestling news 25 minutes after we started the podcast. All right, we are finally ready. By the way, I am coming up early today because I have to be at work a little bit earlier. So I have given myself 2 hours to get all of this stuff talked about. And the next several minutes is going to be occupied by CM Punk because that's what we have to start with. So holy crap. The CM Punk drama from the other day. Now, I did not write down. Whoops, shit. I just screwed. Oh, shit. Sorry, guys. Oops. I just went to our Raw review for Monday because I hit the wrong keyboard. I am trying to find that post from CM Punk, and I nearly screwed up there. Let me get back into where I need to be. Okay, so here's what I wanted to find before we get into everything here. It's so hard to get what you need. There we go. That's what I wanted. I just want to be able to make sure I can read what this says here. All right. Cool. We're going to talk about CM Punk first. We're good, right? Okay, my bad. Just making sure I didn't kibosh the whole stream here with that little minor hiccup. All right, so this was, I guess, what? The day before yesterday. What's today? Saturday? So this must have happened on Thursday. So this was all stemming from Dave Meltzer posting on the Wrestling Observer message board some information about what was going on last year between CM Punk, Hangman Page, The Elite, Dynamite, his injury, the match with Moxley, all of this stuff, right? That has been heavily talked about since Brawl Out. And we were made aware of all of the issues and heat that was, transpiring between these men prior to this situation and how much drama there is behind the scenes involving CM Punk and AEW, Dave went on this message board and said whatever he said that was enough to make CM Punk call bullshit on that and post on Instagram his own side of the story, which was very quickly deleted. And I'm not really sure why it was deleted. Could be a couple of reasons. It could be CM Punk did that on purpose. He had every intention. He had no intention of leaving it up there. He only wanted to leave it up there for a few seconds, delete it, because then it's out there. Then everybody sees it. Whether you delete it or not, it doesn't matter. Or he might have been instructed, perhaps by a lawyer, to delete it based on what was said in this. So here's what he posted on Instagram, like I said, that was quickly deleted after the fact. Sigh. I wasn't cleared to come back to wrestle yet. I should have said, quote, sigh. I wasn't cleared to come back to wrestle yet. Then the plan was to wrestle at the pay-per-view. I sat and listened to Moxley's Rocky 3 idea. I explained how I'd never seen a Rocky movie. Okay, timeout. What? How old are you, CM Punk? This dude is in his 40s. Show me somebody in their 40s that hasn't seen a Rocky movie. I'm not sure if I trust a man in his 40s who hasn't seen a Rocky movie. If this guy tells me he hasn't seen The Karate Kid, I'm quitting CM Punk because I can't take that. So that's crazy enough. He's never seen a Rocky movie and he's acting like Mox is the weird one. Come on now. Come on, Phil. He goes on to say, I thought the idea sucked. So to backtrack, I explained how I'd never seen a Rocky movie and I thought the idea sucked. But if the boss wanted to do it, then whatever. He said he wouldn't lose to me, he meaning Mox. I'd never experienced someone refusing to lose to me. I just laughed. I asked Tony if this is what he wanted. He said yes. He's the boss, so I said okay, but I'd need to be cleared first. They kept saying it could just be a squash, so I didn't have to be cleared. I scoffed at that. My health is more important. Dave Meltzer is a liar. Chris Jericho is a liar and a stooge. There were plans, but plans always change, but I'll never put a company above my health ever again. Lots to get into there. First of all, that Rocky shit is crazy. So for CM Punk to offer up this information, I've never seen a Rocky movie. Why would I watch a stupid movie like that? What the hell's wrong with you? You know what, CM Punk? I've never seen Slapshot. How do you like that? but how have you not seen a Rocky movie? Rocky is one of the greatest pro wrestling stories ever fucking told. Every damn one of those movies could be a complete wrestling angle, especially Rocky 3 and especially Rocky 5, which even Sylvester Stallone hates. Most fans, don't look at Rocky 5 that fondly, but when you think about the story, the young trainee, taking on his teacher, student versus teacher versus pupil, the whole thing, that's been done to death a few times in wrestling. And it was a really good story if you want to look at it that way, from that point of view. And some of the things they did in the movie were fun, even though the movie kind of sucked. But Rocky 4, everybody's seen Rocky 4. So this whole Rocky thing just cracks me up that CM Punk has never seen that. So of course that idea isn't going to sound good to him, because Moxley was laying out an idea for Rocky 3, which is Rocky versus Clubber Lang. He got his ass kicked, and then he had to come back and defeat him after the fact. I think that's the one where Mickey dies or whatever. So basically, like, Punk is going to be Rocky, Moxley's going to be Clubber Lang, and I guess Ace Steel would play the role of Mickey in that situation, since it took Ace Steel's pep talk to kind of snap Punk out of it and get him to go into All Out to regain his championship. So Punk hated that idea because he's never seen a Rocky movie. So that was weird. And then he went on to say that they were basically saying to him that he didn't have to be cleared because it's just going to be a squash, and that CM Punk was uncomfortable with that. So that's pretty telling. That actually might have been one of the reasons why Punk took that Instagram post down so long, is that it even says right there in the AEW handbook of rules and stuff not to speak bad of the company or accuse them of negligence or anything like that. Basically, Punk is echoing a lot of what he said back in 2014 on Colt Cabana's podcast, how he talked about the doctors and WWE leaning on him to get him to go on tour despite a staph infection, despite being sick. Remember the Z-Packs? He kept talking about Z-Packs. So here we are again. He's claiming that he's not good enough to get in the ring, and now he's claiming that yet another wrestling company is leaning on him to go in there when he's not cleared or ready. So that's two companies now that CM Punk has claimed has done this to him. So that might tie into the story that we heard about there being fear that Punk actually wasn't going to show up to one of those final Dynamites leading up to All Out. So we saw the match. I loved the match when Moxley squashed CM Punk. That was so shocking and fun to see. I like stuff like that you're just not expecting. And then Punk was able to come back and win the title at the pay-per-view. So it sounds like there is still heat with Moxley and Punk, which I wasn't really sure if there was any. I always thought Moxley and Punk were probably cool with each other, but it sounds like in addition to Hangman, Kenny, the Bucks, etc., he's got heat with Moxley as well. So, CM Punk is just really, and he's really a disruptive presence in the locker room. I don't know how you can not have that opinion based on some of these things that you hear. And this post from Punk also goes against the feeling that many fans have had that he's trying to come back or he wants to get back in. And he's really been advocating for coming back into the company and doing business. With a post like that, that does not sound like a guy who's in any hurry to come back to the company at all. And plus, what that could do with your locker room and how that would affect the morale that you've been working hard to kind of repair since all of this. It definitely sounds like any bad feelings between Punk and Jericho or Punk and the Elite have not been smoothed over yet. And this whole situation has just gotten more dramatic. So it's to the point where I think Tony Khan needs to make a decision here. He's going to have to get to the point where he's going to say, how much longer do I want little things like this getting in the news and taking away from the job we're trying to do here? So that's going to have to be up to him whenever he wants to officially get a resolution on CM Punk, whether it's going to take an agreement between those two or we're talking courtroom stuff. I don't know, but I think a resolution needs to happen here in the next few months. Punk either needs to come back to AEW and have a match and do business or not. And the longer it drags out, the more clusterfucky it feels. Now, I want to follow up with an amazing write-up that Fightful Select did yesterday. Now, Sean Ross Sapp had said the day before he's working on getting a big report on the CM Punk situation set and ready. They released it yesterday. It is well worth your subscription to Fightful Select. I saw a lot of complaining about paywalls and shit like that. If you have furious rage, anger over a $5 paywall, $5 paywalls are like the least of your problems, you know? So there's a lot of people, oh, this is fucking bullshit. Why am I going to pay $5 when I can just read it for free? I don't know, man. Why are you going to pay OnlyFans when you can see titties for free on the internet? I don't know. You know, it's a business. It's not a requirement. You don't have to subscribe. You don't have to pay it. So why bitch about it? You know, just a lot of that stuff going on around paywall. I'm like, well, if $5 is that important to you, then maybe you shouldn't be subscribing, which you don't have to. Nobody's forcing you to do anything. So there's my little Fightful Select defense, since the dipshits come out of the woodwork when anything comes up like this. Why would I pay for it? And I'm like, yeah, you so missed the point. But I think all that bitching is silly. But anyway, let's look at this Fightful Select report, which was really, really detailed. I want to credit them fully here because this was an excellent write-up, and I'm going to read a lot of this word for word here. So this was courtesy of Fightful Select yesterday, and I quote, "Things got cooking with CM Punk and AEW again when Punk posted an IG story on March 23rd. Fightful had already been working on an expansive CM Punk update, but that gave us more to ask about. So they start with Moxley and Punk. In the post, Punk confirmed a Fightful Select report from last fall that Jon Moxley pitched the idea of Punk losing in a quick match before their all-out match. Those familiar with the situation say that Punk had communicated that he wasn't comfortable competing in any capacity without being cleared first for the August 24th match. There had been issues regarding the creative throughout the build of the match, and Fightful had reported that there were concerns that Punk wouldn't be at the August 17th Dynamite as well. However, we're told that special travel arrangements were made to accommodate Punk the day of the match, and Punk had at least floated the idea of additional reimbursements for the match as he was working without being cleared per his claims." Okay, so let's stop there. This is basically saying that, and confirming that Punk was indeed still a little sketchy with his injury. And the fact that he went in there for a squash and he wasn't cleared, I do find pretty surprising. Now, I remember when we watched that match, if you remember, I think Punk went up for like a kick on Mox, and that's what buckled his ankle, and he went down in a heap, selling the ankle, and Mox capitalized, hammered him into the ground, hit him with the DDT, and pinned him, and won the title. And when we had heard about creative issues, I was always thinking that was pertaining to Hangman Page and CM Punk, and issues there. I didn't really know Punk and Mox even had problems. Now, props to Mox if he was the one that pitched beating CM Punk, because, you know, Mox could be a businessman as well. You know, Mox has got to do the job to Punk at All Out. He probably knows that, but he also sees, perhaps, I'm just recklessly speculating here, maybe he sees the division that Punk is causing in the locker room. Maybe Mox sees the writing on the wall that something's probably going to happen soon and Punk's going to be out of here. So let me pitch something that's going to get me a win over him before he beats me. Because if this guy beats me after the tear that I've been on, I mean, Mox was the most dominant, maybe aside from Roman Reigns, the most dominant wrestler of 2022. And he was absolutely unstoppable and bulletproof at one point, it seemed like. So having Punk end that, only to then just leave the company and disappear, would do damage to Mox. So I'm glad that Mox was able to get that convincing win over Punk before he took that loss to him, kind of protecting himself in a way. Maybe that's one of the reasons why Moxley pitched that. And pitched that whole idea is just to give him one good squash over Punk in the event that Punk bounces. Could be. The post goes on to say, we've heard subsequently, Moxley and Punk have appeared to have heat, not had heat, but have heat, based on those that Moxley has spoken to after Brawl Out. Moxley helped lead a locker room meeting in the days after with Chris Jericho, who was also called a liar and a stooge in Punk's Instagram post. Bryan Danielson also led the meeting, but wasn't mentioned, and we haven't heard of any heat between Danielson and Punk. As far as we know, those guys have always been cool with each other. Goes on to say that Jericho and Punk shouted at each other after the Brawl Out fight took place, with Jericho calling Punk a cancer and Punk shouting back at Jericho. Those in AEW believe that if things came down to a Moxley or Punk situation, that AEW would pick Moxley in that decision. Punk is very aware of the heat on him and the possibility of talent walking out should he return. But we haven't heard his feelings on it. Some of the heat he has certainly has died down since All Out, but there's plenty of heat that still remains. Now it goes on to talk about Punk and AEW. AEW and CM Punk have had some contact. In fact, some close to Punk claim that he and Tony Khan have spoken or have had a couple of meetings, though we aren't sure what, if anything, came from them. We do know there was a planned meeting for mid-February that was delayed, supposedly due to Jerry Jarrett's funeral. At one point, those close to Punk believed he wanted out of his contract without a non-compete attached. However, in recent weeks, they believed that Punk was open to returning to AEW and even wanted to. In an important note, at least one person claimed that Punk was willing to apologize for the scrum portion of the All Out evening. There was a lot of context absent from that claim, specifically to whom or whether it would be publicly or privately. Several people said that Punk has expressed some form of regret for that aspect of the night in general. And that's one thing that I've maintained too, whenever we've talked about this situation. I'm like, at some point, whether it's public or whatever, parties are going to have to come together and everybody's going to have to apologize, and apologies are going to have to be accepted on both sides, and everybody's going to have to be in agreement and be on the same page and be on the same page. And that seems extremely difficult to accomplish with what we know about the situation right now as it stands currently. Goes on to say, sources said that Punk was originally considering potential legal action, but haven't heard anything about that being broached in months. In fact, those that we spoke with felt like there had been productive progression in the opposite direction. However, sources within AEW that we spoke to lost confidence that Punk would be returning after Thursday's post. So yeah, if there was some confidence, if there was some optimism, like there has been a lot from myself and a lot of you and the fans about a possible CM Punk return this year, it feels like all of that has been undone now with this Instagram post. Goes on to say that Punk does remain under contract with AEW. We've inquired as to whether or not there was ever a suspension or pay docking involved, but traditionally AEW has paid out wrestlers while they're injured regardless. Punk has not responded to email inquiries about this story. Then we talk about Hangman and CM Punk. On this issue, Fightful Select says, and I quote, the issues with Hangman and CM Punk dated back to before their AEW Double or Nothing match, to the point where we're told Punk ended up having a meeting with AEW officials. We're told that Punk had expressed his frustration regarding Hangman's comments during a promo that Punk believed referenced Colt Cabana and wasn't satisfied with the resolution or lack thereof. This led to him calling out Hangman Page months later upon his return. And that's when he came out to the ring and, Hangman Page, come out. I challenge you right now. And then he said something about the apology has to be as loud as the disrespect, whatever that was. Those that we've heard from claim Page makes an effort to remove himself from the situation and has tried to move past it. Now there's an injury update. As far as CM Punk's injury status, he tore his triceps at All Out before the scrum. Those with knowledge of the situation said that he was hopeful he could be fully healthy by January, but believed that now he'd be able to be cleared, and if not now, very soon. There were some asking about him filming for Heels Season 2, since he posted a picture from the set recently, but that season reportedly wrapped last July. Now it goes on to talk about Brawl Out. The true accounts of Brawl Out will likely never be known unless Punk and the Elite get together and explain it in detail, which is unlikely. However, we've learned a little bit more about the situation. There were other talent who were present at the time of the brawl, but did not get physically involved and therefore weren't suspended. However, there was another production employee who ended up getting struck with a chair that hadn't been previously reported. There were some rumors recently that Punk and Kenny Omega had a brief conversation a few days later, which isn't true. By then, Punk was set for surgery and Kenny had already had other plans. However, Punk and Kenny did have a brief conversation after the Brawl Out fight in the immediate moments following. Punk was said to have told Omega the issue wasn't with him. Those that were nearby said the two were going to continue talking, but Ace Steel was still being dealt with at that point. Even those close with Punk claimed that Omega was surprisingly composed during the aftermath. Omega had been scheduled to go to Japan to do a Tokyo Game Show work for AEW, but due to the suspension, ended up taking a personal trip over there instead. So this kind of paints a picture about the post-fight proceedings, and it sounds like Kenny, who has always been known to be a very laid-back, very chill guy. He's not going to ever choose violence, very rarely. Very composed, very nice guy. That's why I don't understand, the hate he gets from the armpit of wrestling Twitter and the wrestling fans and all these JC, ball garglers. that just repeat their twinkle feet bullshit or whatever. He's a good dude and a great wrestler, as we'll talk about here in a minute. The match we saw on Wednesday with Vikingo, which was just insane. But after that situation happened, I could totally see Omega trying to talk to CM Punk, or the two of them try to work things out, because I never thought, even during the scrum, that Punk was really talking about Kenny Omega. It sounds like his issue was more with the Bucks. Kenny Omega was just there, and he showed up because he's kind of lumped in with the Elite, and they tried to work it out after the fact. But since there was still a lot of crap going on with Ace Steel and a lot of confusion and a lot of chaos, maybe that conversation wasn't able to progress. And also, you know, we have no idea. I think that Punk might have said something about this in his Instagram story if it happened. But, you know, I would like to think the way professionals or men would generally operate, that one of these men, some of these men have been exchanging some text messages to each other or reaching out to Punk and say, hey, do you think we should try to resolve this? At least that's what I try to do. I mean, the blood must be very bad for nobody to want to reach out and say, let's try to resolve this, because we're sitting on a gold mine of an angle right here if we're able to ever come back together. And the fact that it seems like all the parties are as far apart as they've ever been doesn't bode well for that happening, and that's a damn shame. Now, there's another note here about New Japan. And of course, because Punk made an appearance not long ago. Those we spoke to in New Japan Pro Wrestling were not aware that Punk was going to attend their Battle in the Valley show, but said they would have welcomed him regardless. Sources in New Japan just didn't want AEW to think they were conspiring against a partner, which has been cleared up quickly. The only people who had knowledge of Punk going to Battle in the Valley were Lars Fredrickson, who we went with, Lou D'Angeli, a close friend of Punk, former Louis Dangerously in ECW, and Rob Naylor. Fredrickson had asked Rocky Romero if he and a friend could attend the show back in January, and it was set up without New Japan knowing it would be Punk. We're told that Punk wanted to go to the show and to support Mercedes Moné's debut match in New Japan. Fightful Select reached out to both AEW and CM Punk for the story, but did not hear back from either in an official capacity. Now, the New Japan stuff I didn't really think was a big deal. That was just Punk going to a show. But it still sounds like, as we read, there is a ton of unanswered questions and still a ton of problems as it relates to CM Punk and AEW and that relationship and the relationship with the Elite and Kenny and Punk and Jericho and Mox and everybody. So when you look at this story, everything that CM Punk said, everything that Meltzer's been saying, and this fantastic write-up by Fightful Select yesterday, I'm not seeing too many pieces of evidence that's lending me to believe that CM Punk is coming back. Now, of course, a wrestler can't go in the bathroom and take a shit without fans saying it's a work. Or do you think it's a work? No, I don't think anything like this is a work. Now, it would be great if it was, because on TV, AEW is setting up some kind of interesting things. Looks like we might be getting a Blackpool Combat Club versus Elite Blood and Guts match. Now, if it's going to be Kenny and the Bucks and Hangman taking on the BCC, unless Danielson shows back up, they're going to be down a man. I wonder who they could call. I would think that CM Punk would be the perfect guy for them to bring in, but how's that going to work if he's got heat with Moxley right now? So I would like nothing more than for this to be a work, but it's not. It sounds like all of the parties involved here aren't really any closer to a resolution. And at some point, you have to start asking yourself, if you're Tony Khan, when does this become too much of a distraction? Because up until now, I could understand him wait and see until CM Punk is healthy again, because he can't work anyway. So you might as well see if during his surgery and recovery time, if some of the parties can't come together and we can smooth things over, hash things out, get on the same page, agree to do business, give our apologies, kiss and make up, and get back to business. I can understand Tony Khan wanting to hold out and seeing if that's going to happen. But now it's nearly April. Punk is probably cleared physically to get back in the ring at any point. If he's ready to come back and you can't use him, you got to cut your losses or something. I mean, I know Tony Khan probably doesn't want CM Punk to go to WWE, but would that even happen? Would they even bring him in? And I said months ago, I said, if Tony Khan's going to cut CM Punk loose, I would wait until the day after WrestleMania to do it, just to make sure. Because if he was cutting CM Punk and released him, and there's no non-compete clause, and Punk is free and clear to do whatever he wants tomorrow, I'd be super nervous. that WWE would parade him out there at WrestleMania or bring him in for a surprise and blow the roof off of SoFi Stadium, just for, number one, to create the moment, and number two, to give a big FU to their competition. So if I'm Tony Khan, I'm slightly worried about that. And if I'm going to cut CM Punk or let him go, I'm going to say, okay, fine. I know I'm going to have to do that, but at least I'm going to get away from WrestleMania and not give them the opportunity to have that moment. And that could be part of his thought process too, especially if, Tony Khan and CM Punk, according to Fightful Select, did have a couple of meetings, but there's no indication of how those meetings went, what was talked about, and what the attitude was. I mean, are these guys, are they still bros? Like, do they want to work things out, but they just can't? Or is there some animosity? Are they mad at each other? I mean, if I'm Tony Khan, I'm pretty upset for CM Punk running down my entire company while he sat right next to me. But maybe Tony Khan is a forgiving person. We'll have to find out. But it doesn't sound like, based on the information that we've received in the last 48 hours, that we are any closer to a resolution. And if anything, we're probably as far or farther away from a resolution as we've ever been. And as a wrestling fan, that's really, really sad. So that's a shame. If these guys can ever come back together, there's some money to be made, but you can't wait forever. Otherwise, we'll move on to other things and this whole thing will be forgotten. But it's definitely going to go down as one of the more interesting stories in wrestling history, right up there with the Montreal Screwjob, because, it involved, top guys, champions leaving the company, immediately after a backstage altercation. There's not a ton of these throughout the history of the business. There's plenty of backstage fights, but none that happened like this, none so public. I can only think of Brawl Out and Screwjob in terms of backstage fights or altercations that really shook the foundation of wrestling. It's really just the two of them. So, Brett and Sean, unfortunately, were never able to come together and work any sort of a program after this, and Punk and the Elite might not be able to either. It's a shame, but we will continue to keep our eye on it. And if the day after WrestleMania, Tony Khan announces CM Punk is officially released from AEW, that will be pretty funny if it turns out to be that. Anyway, we should move on to some other pleasant news. Let's talk about Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon, according to a new filing by the SEC, has entered into a reimbursement agreement with WWE to pay back $17.4 million in boner money. Way to go, Vince McMahon. The agreement also provides an agreement that Vince will reimburse any other future costs that might still be coming related to the scandals or more scandals that might come out. So it sounds like Vince might be positioning himself to try to make everything good, make amends, pay back everything so he can install his way back into the company. That's where a lot of the fans' one-dimensional thinking brains are going to go immediately. Oh, this is an indication that Vince is back. I know Vince is back behind the scenes, working on that sale, but he's not back in creative. He did sit in Gorilla a couple of weeks ago. Again, not back, just there. And I've never had a problem at all with Vince. If he insists on being involved with the sale of the company, that's the behind the scenes shit that we don't really have much say on. So if Vince wants to be attending corporate meetings, trying to get the company sold, what the fuck do I care? What I care about is Vince McMahon keeping his disgusting, grubby, creative fingers off of the product we're seeing right now. And so far, he is. Aside from some input and a couple of text messages with his son-in-law that I'm sure happens, I never once believed that Vince is fully back in control and he's pulling all the strings. Whether we get a Brock Lesnar versus Omos match or not, to me, that is not confirmation that Vince is back. But then when you hear a story like this, it took, 2 seconds, and the same people you'd expect to say shit like this are all on Twitter. Oh, Vince McMahon is back, because that's just where they go. Armageddon all the time, worst case possible scenario. I think Vince is doing this perhaps to position himself better to be involved in the company, but there's so much uncertainty that I don't know how any fan can pretend to understand what the hell is going on here. I mean, if Vince is paying all of this back so he can be back in charge of WWE, well, what happens if the company sells? I mean, it sounds like they have not been very successful in their pursuit of a sale, to the point where we've heard multiple stories about Vince's involvement with WWE is a sticking point to some of these suitors and some of these buyers. If a Disney or an Amazon or anybody like that purchases the company, I do not see a world where they will agree to letting Vince McMahon stay in complete creative control of this company. I just can't see it happening. And the only buyers that even seem possible to let, that even seem like a possibility to allow that to happen would be the Saudis, which we still have heard no information on. So if the Saudis are still kind of the front runner and they're going to buy it, and Vince McMahon is paying back all of his boner money, that could be pretty scary. That could signify a sale to the Saudis and Vince McMahon staying in control of the company in some way. I don't know. Or it could just be Vince McMahon doing what he's supposed to do and paying back that money, the company money that he used, to pay off all of his scandalous affairs. So I don't want to read too much into this story yet, because I think it's Vince McMahon, trying to make it right, which he should, but I don't know if that automatically means he's doing this so he can get back into WWE. And I still think even if you pay it back, it shouldn't matter. We've seen CEOs of companies being let go or pushed out or forced to resign for a lot less than what Vince McMahon did. And I don't think you can just pay a fine and then come back in. I don't think that's the way it works. And this idea that Vince McMahon can just do whatever he wants isn't true. Vince McMahon, I know he's larger than life in our brains, but he can't just do whatever he wants. He still has to abide by laws, and he still, has to get old, which he is. And I've said, as strong and as much of a freak of nature as Vince McMahon is, he's not going to be able to defeat Father Time, and it's showing on him already. So what in the world does a man who's pushing 80 need to do in his company to be so crazy heavily involved? I mean, he's trying to be Jerry Jones here. I don't know. The company is finally in somewhat competent creative hands. I just don't see a world where Vince McMahon comes in and screws that up, because Vince McMahon is a businessman. He wants to make money, and he wants his company to make money. And so far, since he's been removed from creative, those aspects of business have been better. Attendance has been up, interest has been up, ratings has been up. Everything has been better from a creative standpoint since he left. To come back only undoes that, which costs the company money, which I can't see. So it's all about Vince's ego. It's all about what Vince wants to do. Fans, again, usually are very angry with Vince, so they are going to think the worst and that he's going to do what he wants, and it doesn't matter what anybody says, he's going to do it anyway. That's not how the real world works. So I just don't think it's as simple as Vince can do whatever he wants. I'm sure Vince wants to do whatever he wants. And Vince, when it came to running WWE's day-to-day creative operation, when he was in charge, he could certainly do whatever he wants. We've heard multiple stories of Vince forcing ideas and pitching ideas and making things happen because he wants them. But this is the business world now. This is a scandal that he's had to deal with. And in the middle of WWE selling, nobody even knows what the hell the future is. And that's what makes this so uncomfortable. That's why I can understand fans being a little bit nervous about this, a story like this, because we really don't know. The future of WWE at this point could be anything. It could be no sale. We might not be selling at all, and they're just going to go back to doing what they're doing. It could be that. Or they could sell, and we're going to see some massive changes internally in the company. And there's so much uncertainty. I don't know how you can really start focusing on one specific thing happening, because I don't think WWE's future has ever been more uncertain than it is right now, where we're sitting in 2023, because we don't know what's going to happen. So much like the WrestleMania matches and what's going to main event, before we panic and we go into category 5 panic mode, let's just wait, see what happens. I don't see this story as being a negative one. I'm glad Vince McMahon paid back that money that he owes to the company that he stole to pay off his boner. He should do that. So this isn't a bad story. This is not negative. This is actually something that's kind of good. I'm glad that he paid them back. But in terms of what it means for Vince's future, it could mean anything. We just don't know yet. But I'm nervous. I ain't going to lie. Also, we have some news on AEW's Saturday show. I think it was Andrew Zarian who first reported that AEW was negotiating with Warner Brothers Discovery about a new TV show that will be a Saturday show. And apparently, according to Meltzer anyway, in the last Wrestling Observer newsletter, says the show is set to debut in July or before. So sounds like the latest it's going to debut is going to be this summer. So good for them. Alexa Bliss was on The Masked Singer. I know nothing about The Masked Singer. I've seen 2 clips of The Masked Singer, the one with Jericho and the one with Alexa Bliss. So those judge shows, the voices and the Masked Singers, those just do not appeal to me. I will never watch them. So all I saw was the clip of Alexa Bliss. I'm glad that she's doing something. Again, she's been missing from WWE as well. They were teasing some stuff with her being involved with Bray Wyatt, but now that Bray Wyatt's slipped into another dimension and we don't know where he is, they might just be holding Alexa Bliss off TV until they finally confirm that everything with Bray Wyatt is over and done with, and then they bring her back and put her in some sort of angle or something like that. But she, she hasn't done a lot in the last couple of years. And I'm glad she got this opportunity to be on The Masked Singer. I don't even know what song she sang, to be honest. Also, sad news to report. I just wanted to wish Josh Alexander well. Josh Alexander, I believe, is the longest running Impact champion in company history. That's crazy. He has to vacate the title due to a torn triceps that will require surgery. So Impact is going to be booking Steve Maclin and Kushida at Rebellion for the vacant title. That's a shame. Josh Alexander is awesome, and it's a bummer that he has to drop the title in that way. Sounds like he's heartbroken about it, but that's the business, man. It'll always kick you in the balls when you least expect it. We've seen that many times on the big companies and WWE, many times, and AEW, how many champions have had to cough up the belt due to an injury. It's always sad. It always sucks, and best of luck to Josh Alexander. Let me cruise back here to the chat. By the way, I would love some likes on this video. Please hook me up with a like, and please subscribe if you are not yet already, because we're going to be up here a lot this week doing WrestleMania stuff. And I could really use them likes. Let me get back here to the chat and see what you guys are saying about some of this stuff. Yeah, we're going to be talking about Rhea Ripley in Charlotte here in just a minute. We have Max Pokebra chiming in with $5. Thank you so much, dude. Best case scenario, it's Vince making amends with the company, knowing that it was his actions that put WWE in a bad light. That is best case scenario. I feel like that might be unlikely with Vince because he's such a selfish piece of shit. But, I also think there's a method to everything he's doing. And there probably are some motives to him paying this back. Maybe he's doing this with the hope that this helps his case if he ever wants to get back involved in the company in any larger way, especially if the company sells. So we just don't know. But my point was, to the people panicking, I think it's a little bit too early to panic, and I don't think we should really be doing that quite yet because we just don't know what's going to happen. It could be anything. Now, creative still sucks. Creative isn't great in WWE. WWE, I said this when Triple H took over. I said, be careful now before we start going too crazy about Triple H. Remember that this is still WWE. WWE is still going to WWE. They're still going to do their WWE things. They're still going to do their WWE shit. And they're going to put their WWE influence and spin on everything they do. That's always going to be there. The repetitive stuff, the redundance, the fucking entrances, everything they do is just still going to be there and overproduced and stupid and annoying. That's going to exist. What Triple H brings is a little bit more, I think, stability and continuity from a creative end. Triple H has a much bigger and deeper respect for the business's history and things like that. That's why what I'm going to talk about here in a minute with the title belt sounds like, he's kind of over the Universal title as well. And I think Triple H has always appreciated the history of the business where he might be able to give the fans some throwbacks. But in terms of the storylines and the stories, the bloodline stuff that they've been doing, granted, that's not all Triple H. I am very much in favor of a Triple H creative regime over a Vince one. But at the end of the day, you're still watching WWE. So Triple H isn't going to come in and immediately make everything better. All he's going to do is improve it and not make it suck so bad. So Monique, that's the way I'm looking at it. But yeah, WWE is always going to do their WWE stuff and ruin a lot of moments for us. Oh, Mickey James has got a broken rib. That's a shame. Mike, you could be right about Vince McMahon as well. Maybe Vince McMahon is trying to clean up all of his messes ahead of next year if they are going to do a Vince McMahon Hall of Fame induction, which next year at WrestleMania 40 could be a good place. I want to see personally next year at WrestleMania 40, Paul Heyman. go into the Hall of Fame. I think it would be funny if Vince came and stole Paul Heyman's thunder. I think Paul Heyman should go in as the headliner in next year's Hall of Fame in Philadelphia. That's my early 1 year out prediction for next year. That's who I'm putting in the Hall of Fame. And if Heyman goes in, I think he needs to headline. But Heyman can't headline if Vince is going in, because Vince is going to headline. And I don't know, but I'm more in favor of Heyman going in over Vince next year at WrestleMania 40. They can still put Vince in, maybe wait till 45 or something to put Vince in when he's super old. But if they're going to do it and they want to do it when Vince is alive, then WrestleMania 40 might be the best place for him. And speaking of Vince and Triple H too, we'll talk about that when we talk about Cody here. Never mind. So forget what I said. Let's start getting into what do we need to get into next. You know what? Let's circle back a little bit and just talk about Dynamite real quick, because everything else is going to be so heavily WWE that I don't want to have to circle back and just talk for 5 minutes about Dynamite. So Dynamite this past week, I did watch. We did not do a live reaction for, though, but I thought it was a really good show, and I just want to mention a couple of moments about that. First of all, the FTR and Guns match, I believe, is set, for this week on TV? Is that when this match is going to happen? It's going to happen on Dynamite on Wednesday. Do I have that right? I haven't gotten confirmation on that, but the Guns were approached by FTR after their victory on Dynamite, and FTR challenged them to an AEW tag team title match, and they said that if they lose, they will leave AEW. So this is a career versus title match that I think is booked next week or this week for the AEW tag team titles. And I think that's great, because there's been so much, I don't want to say controversy, but there's been so much speculation and chatter around FTR. Dax Harwood, Mr. Chatty Cathy, has had a lot to say on his podcast, and he's kind of lended a few hints as to what FTR's future is going to be. He's talked about FTR's frustration and issues that they've had with AEW. Also talked a lot about what they enjoy about AEW. They've talked a lot about WWE and Triple H and a lot of topics. And some fans have been feeling that FTR might want to head back to WWE. They haven't been booked. They've been voicing frustration about not being booked in AEW, being absent from TV. They almost fell into Miro category there before coming back a couple of weeks ago. And when they did, it was kind of rumored that they might have inked new long-term deals with the company. Now, FTR comes out and challenges the Guns to a title match, saying that they will leave AEW if they don't win. This is really cool, because you really don't know what the hell they're going to do. The Guns, by the way, do agree to the match, and I don't know which one it was, Austin or Colton, but one of them just moved up to the #1 spot on the greatest loogies of all time list. Holy shit. Loogie from hell. It used to be Bret Hart #1, loogie onto Vince McMahon. This one was Austin Gunn onto Dax Harwood's face. My God, the spit that was on his face was crazy. If FTR has to get spit in the face like that, then go into their match against the Ass Boys and lose and leave the company, that is one terrible way to leave AEW. So if I'm going to predict this, and I'm going to guess FTR sticking around, I don't think they're going to go back to WWE. I think they might be booking this to make a lot of fans think they're going to leave. And this means that not only are they going to not leave AEW, but they're about to regain these AEW tag team titles. So either way, we get some big news when this match happens. We are either going to get FTR once again tag team champions, or FTR is going to WWE. Hell, maybe there's even time for them to debut and show up at WrestleMania. If they were to leave on Wednesday and Tony cut them loose free and clear, they can show up at WrestleMania if they want. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think FTR is probably going to win the titles here. That's what I'm hoping they do, because I want to see them stick around in AEW. I did see the one headline, I didn't read it, where Dax was talking about Triple H and said Triple H liked FTR style or the Revival style, but wasn't prepared to build the company around them. So maybe that's what they were looking for. Maybe they're looking to be the centerpiece, the Charlotte, the Cena of the tag team division. And if they felt they weren't going to get that in WWE, they still have a chance to get it in AEW. Maybe that's what Tony Khan agreed to. Hey, sign these new deals. I'll belt you up right away on TV, and we'll run with you. Maybe that was the agreement. We'll find out on Wednesday. I'm looking forward to that. How fun was Stokely and Hook? Holy shit. That was one of the funnest things I've seen all week. Stokely coming out in his gear. Don't diss Stokely or he'll bum rush your mother. He's taken on Hook. He tries to get out of the match by giving, what did he give, like a Chipotle receipt or something as a doctor's note or whatever it was. He tried to get out of the match. He is so funny. The Firm, who would have thought? The Firm is a pleasant surprise, just like Judgment Day. You know, Edge leaving Judgment Day, when we thought that would just kill Judgment Day and leave them dead in the water, it actually really, really helped them grow and got Dominic on the map, got Rhea Ripley on the map. They've been so good without Edge. And the Firm is another faction that wouldn't expect to be funny, but they have a tremendous amount of chemistry with each other. Stokely is all kinds of fun. And this match was fun. It kind of reminded me of the old Jim Cornette and Jose Lothario matches that they would have in 96, and Cornette would get his ass kicked by Jose and then go in the back and claim that Jose pulled out a switchblade on him and stuff. It's so funny. Stokely was great. That was very entertaining. I also loved the Adam Cole and Daniel Garcia segment. Cole came out. He, of course, returns to the ring this coming Wednesday, and he's going to be taking on Daniel Garcia in his first match back, so that's good. Good little tune-up or a warm-up match for Adam Cole getting back into the swing of things. Garcia is going to give him a great match. Garcia's been in plenty of Dynamite main events himself already as it is. He's an excellent first opponent because he's credible, and you need somebody that Adam Cole is going to beat. And I think Adam Cole, given how over he is, provided he can get back, get into the groove, get some reps, and stay healthy, I don't know how you don't put him in a title program ASAP this summer. I think Double or Nothing is going to be reserved for the Four Pillars match, but I'm kind of eyeballing MJF and Adam Cole for All Out. I'd be perfectly fine with that. Also, there are some rumors that All Out might not be at its normal spot in Chicago. They might actually be taking our suggestion and the suggestion of many and moving it into the United Center, which is a bigger arena, which they could pack it out. It would look great. Sounds like that's a possibility. And honestly, that's the way it should have always been. The United Center should be AEW's Madison Square Garden. I hope they do it. I hope they do it. I hope they do it. The biggest news, though, of Dynamite this past week was what surrounded the Elite. Now, we had the dream match. We had the dream match booked between Kenny Omega and El Hijo del Vikingo, or Vikingo. I always pronounce it wrong. That was booked a week before. Now, that match was annoying enough as it was, because since it was booked as a dream match, you had fans getting all mad about this. Who is this guy? Who is this guy? Geez, if only there was these devices or machines that we had that would just give us unlimited, endless information. I forgot what they're called. I think a couple of them exist. You know, if only everybody had access to that stuff, maybe you could learn about these guys, you know? Crazy thought. So that match was made. They attached the word dream match to it, which apparently is what got up everybody's ass. They said, who is this guy? Then they said, oh, they're putting this match on TV with no story. Oh, they're billing it as a dream match. And these were the things that everybody was focusing on. Yet we knew the match was going to be good because Vikingo is one of the top luchadors in Mexico. He is freaking amazing. He has been calling out Kenny Omega. They had a match scheduled last year, but Kenny got hurt. And Kenny's been accused of ducking this guy. And instead of waiting for Kenny to come back to Mexico, Vikingo came here to challenge Omega. And that is the story. You don't really need any more of a story than that. I don't believe for a second that the fans really want stories. What they want is a reason to hate the match. So once they were told, when they say, oh, there's no story, and people said, no, there is a story. Okay, fine. Now they've moved on to something else. Since they can't use the story thing as an excuse to hate the match, well, now they're billing it as a dream match. That's not a dream match. Okay, so it's the semantics that bother you. It's the wording of it that you're allowing to upset you to this degree. That's it. Again, I don't think you hate the idea that it's called a rematch or a dream match. You're just looking for a reason to hate the match. That's all. So then we get to the match, and these two guys tear it up. I've never seen some of the moves that I saw in this match and the crazy athleticism that many people were saying you're going to get. 2 days after this match was announced, they did a big rundown of who Vikingo was on Rampage. Excalibur explained it in great detail. They showed a lot of clips of him on TV, on YouTube, trying to get the fans as familiar as possible with him, since it seems like Google is just a little bit hard for the fans to figure out. So then we get to the match, and then the match is fantastic. The match is dazzling everybody. Crazy stuff. And everybody agrees that the match was great. Even the haters just kind of shut the fuck up overnight until the next day. And then we start seeing a lot of the slow motion replays. One in particular, the crazy spot where Vikingo did a springboard. I think it was a 630. How many rotations is that? What's the number? I think it was a 630, 640, what the fuck it is. Spun around and landed on Kenny Omega through a table. But as he came down, the back of his head basically smacked the back of the apron. And he was a millisecond away from being paralyzed. I mean, it was that close. And so then, there we go. Now there's something else. So now it's all about safety and all this. This match was bonkers. This match was nuts. This match was extremely entertaining. Styles like this always make me nervous. There's plenty of people in the wrestling business that make me hold my breath when they do spots, and there's a lot of close calls a lot of times. I thought this match was absolute pure joy to watch, to experience. It was fun. I had no doubt that it would be. You wouldn't put this match in the main event of Dynamite and bill it as a dream match if it was going to suck. So the fans who didn't want to give it a chance weren't going to give it a chance at all. But the rest of us who were just interested in seeing what this was about, it delivered. And the fans that want to hate on it, they just lack all logic and they're so hypocritical. I remember back at Canadian Stampede, one of the best in-your houses of all time. We had a one-off booked between Taka Michinoku and the Great Sasuke. It was a great match. I enjoyed the shit out of it. Never got mad once that Taka Michinoku was booked against the Great Sasuke. I was never bitching about where's the story? Where's the story? Where's the story? Never cared. I was interested in seeing a guy that's relatively new, international talent in Taka, taking on somebody that I was not that familiar with other than magazines at the time. And I was interested to be able to visualize with my own eyes one of his matches. I mean, what kind of a wrestling fan can you call yourself if you have to go who all the time? I thought wrestling fans always wanted to know shit. It's funny how things are being reversed, because back in the day, you would, even if you didn't know who Vikingo was, you would pretend that you did. You know, and nowadays it's almost like it's cool to say, oh, who is this? I'm like, well, I thought you were a wrestling fan. I thought you were a knowledgeable wrestling fan. How do you have no information about this guy at all? You know, it's a weird flex, you know, like I don't get it. I don't get why fans are like, oh, who's that girl that was on Logan Paul's podcast that claimed that WWE offered her $20 million to come in? Wrestling fans, that is when you're supposed to say who, because I've never heard of that woman in my life, and she's claiming they offered her $20 million. Yeah, right. So anyway, the main event of Dynamite this past week was great, but what was also awesome was what was centered around it. The show opened up with the Young Bucks being taken out. They got taken out. It was revealed later that it was the Blackpool Combat Club, but we didn't know that at the time. So the show opened up with the Bucks being loaded into ambulances. Callis is out there. Kenny is out there. I think Brandon Cutler gets in the ambulance with Matt. And then he goes, make sure somebody goes with Nick. And then Callis is like, okay. And Kenny wants to go, but Callis doesn't want him to go. And I think Hangman jumps in the ambulance. I'll go with him. And Callis is trying to hang Kenny back because he's got that big match later on in the main event. And they would cut to Kenny a couple times through the night, kind of pacing around, kind of nervous, and Callis trying to talk him down. So after the main event is over and Kenny wins in that phenomenal match, we have the Blackpool Combat Club hit the ring and they attack because, of course, the Elite are all at the hospital and they jump Kenny Omega. And then we start hearing sirens and I was like, oh, one of these guys has stolen the ambulance. So Adam Page drives the ambulance back to the arena. He comes to the ring with a frickin' 2x4, runs off the Blackpool Combat Club, and as they're retreating on the outside of the ring, Don Callis is over by Hangman. And he's kind of like yanking on his hand or something like that. And then Callis just falls. He like falls back and takes a big flop, like an NBA flap, just as Kenny Omega spins around. And now they're making it look like Hangman knocked down Callis and Omega's getting in Hangman's face. And Hangman's like, I didn't do this shit or whatever. So they kind of ended the show with a misunderstanding. So it sounds like Callis is up to something, but what is he up to? Is he going to be joining the Blackpool Combat Club? Is that what's going to happen here? Is Callis going to leave the Elite for them? That seems like a weird fit, even though it seems like kind of what they're setting up. I kind of hope that's not the case. I think that replacing William Regal with Callis is a step down. I'm a big Don Callis fan. Dude's a great talker. He's got a ridiculous tan, but he's fucking obnoxious. And I think you need somebody a little bit less obnoxious in the Combat Club. Although they're heels, Wheeler Yuta is starting to get a lot of attention by being that little obnoxious prick. So maybe they need an obnoxious prick leader. It's possible. Otherwise, he has been trying to recruit Takeshita. So hell, Takeshita joining the Combat Club would work. We have to at least assume that Danielson is out. And if they are going to do what's looking like a blood and guts match, am I misreading this, or does it seem like we might be getting the Elite versus the Blackpool Combat Club in blood and guts? And if we do get that, like I said, Blackpool Combat Club is down a man. So if Callis, if he's turning heel and he joins the Combat Club, and with that, he brings with him a new Combat Club member, if he's successful in recruiting Takeshita and he brings him along and the two of them join Blackpool Combat Club together, that would be pretty crazy. I mean, Takeshita is such a fucking lovable guy. I don't want to see him as a heel, but he's a badass, and it would do him some good to be surrounded by Mox and Claudio. I think that would be great, and it would definitely put a new look on the Blackpool Combat Club, adding Callis and Takeshita. But I can't quite tell exactly what Callis is up to. All I know is he's turning on the Elite in some way here. Just not sure what his motivations are yet. But Wednesday was a fun Dynamite. Really, really good show. I was laughing. I was amazed. I was jumping out of my chair. And when it was all over, me and Elizabeth went out for a great date night and had an absolutely delicious dinner. There is nothing better after a dream match main event than a big ass bone-in ribeye. Mwah. So Wednesday was fun. Thoroughly enjoyed Dynamite on Wednesday. But this is primarily a WWE podcast, and we got to talk more about that. So last night on SmackDown was a pretty fun show as well, and a couple of really big moments, specifically with Rey and Dominic. Now, earlier on, I talked about, when we opened the podcast here, I talked about the Andre the Giant Battle Royal. I said that Bobby Lashley and LA Knight being booked for this might not be as bad as you think. I personally do not believe that Triple H would do Lashley like that. Him missing WrestleMania because of whatever the hell's going on with Bray Wyatt is not Bobby Lashley's fault. So I am not convinced for a second that Bobby Lashley is going to be in the Andre Battle Royal on Friday and nothing else. I fully believe that Lashley will have a segment, a match, or a moment at WrestleMania. I pitched at the beginning of the podcast him coming out to the ring demanding a match, and Randy Orton coming out to accept. I pitched Lashley and Knight both coming out to the ring and both demanding opponents, and RK Bro coming out, beating them, and then after the match, Randy Orton turns on Riddle. I pitched LA Knight coming out to the ring and calling out Stone Cold Steve Austin. There's lots you can do, but I think at the very least, Lashley will have something to do at WrestleMania because he was already booked, and it's fucked up to take that away from him. At the very least, have him come out and help Brock beat Omos or something. Maybe Brock can't beat Omos, and then Lashley shows up and Brock and Lashley join forces to take out Omos, something like that. I wish they would have just stuck with Lashley and Brock and just done the blow-off in a fight pit match at WrestleMania. That's what you should have done. But now you've gummed everything up and Lashley is stuck without an opponent. I don't think they're going to do him like that. I believe not only will Lashley win the Andre the Giant Battle Royal, if it's not Lashley, I want it to be Solo Sikoa. But I think it'll be Lashley. Solo would make a lot of sense with the way Cody has been telling Solo he's not ready. He's not ready. Cody's actually booked against Solo Sikoa, I think, on Monday Night Raw. So Cody's either going to beat Solo or there's going to be a DQ finish there. And then if you have Solo go in and win the Battle Royal right before the bloodline crumbles, Solo Sikoa could be the only bloodline member that got a win on WrestleMania weekend. He won the Battle Royal. Everybody else lost. He would be a perfect fit to win the Battle Royal. And if Lashley wasn't in it, I'd be picking Solo Sikoa all the way. But I'd have Lashley win the Battle Royal and then come out at WrestleMania and be like, I won the Battle Royal last night. Somebody come out here and fight me and you can do whatever you want to do. But Lashley, I believe, will have a presence at WrestleMania. So we opened up the show with Cody defeating Ludwig Kaiser in a pretty competitive match. Now, Heyman and Solo Sikoa were out in the aisleway during the match. And then after the match, they were on the apron. And Cody cut a promo on them, reiterating that Solo is not ready and that Solo and Cody, I believe, are going to face each other on Monday Night Raw. We had a Charlotte promo, which was shitty. She was out there by herself. She was getting what chanted to death. She came off a little bit heelish, even though she's supposed to be a babyface. It feels extremely forced. Charlotte did look great, though. I will say that for her last night. She looked freaking incredible. But the promo, very boring. I mean, she didn't say anything other than, Rhea Ripley, I'm going to beat you at WrestleMania. And I discussed in detail last week about Charlotte and Rhea Ripley potentially main eventing night one and why fans shouldn't freak out if that happens and why it's not the end of the world. Here we are 1 week later, and my stance still stands. When you look at Charlotte and Rhea Ripley's build compared to the tag title situation, it sucks. There's been very little to this build between the two of them, and it doesn't feel like a storyline that deserves the main event of night one. But we haven't gotten any confirmation on what the main event is going to be. This was simply a rumor reported by Meltzer. That's what got everybody's panties in a wad. Fucking Dave got you all upset because he heard that Rhea and Charlotte might be main eventing night one. I think that if WWE was going to have, and their intent was to have Charlotte and Ripley main event night one, I think we would have heard that by now publicly. I think WWE would have said something. They just casually mentioned on SmackDown last night that John Cena and Austin Theory would be opening the show, which is interesting. The last time John Cena opened a WrestleMania was the WrestleMania we watched last week, WrestleMania 20, when he faced the Big Show for, you guessed it, the United States title. So that's kind of cool that Cena, who I believe has main evented 5 or 6 WrestleManias, is now going to open another WrestleMania. But I also think it's kind of telling. You know what Cena and Theory opening WrestleMania tells me? Tells me that Cena's got to get the fuck out of there. Let me get there, get my match over with. He's pulling a Brock. He's going to get there, get his match over as quickly as possible, and he's going to be out of there before the second match is even out of the ring. And probably on a flight off to film whatever he's going to do, which tells me that Austin Theory might be winning the opening match of WrestleMania. Is that how they're going to start this thing off, with an Austin Theory over John Cena victory? I can't see Cena opening the show and winning the title. That means he's going to have to be on Raw defending it. How are you going to do that? So Cena having the opening match, that's probably him being like, hey, WWE, can you get me out of there? Can I just come do my job and you get me out of there quickly as possible? I got shit to do. I got a busy life now. And that might be what they're doing, giving John Cena the opening match so he can get on a plane and leave. So that's what that tells me, but that's interesting. But in terms of Charlotte and Rhea Ripley, they haven't announced anything yet, which tells me WWE's either still thinking about it or, they actually do intend on putting the tag team title match in the main event. As much as I was giving the fans a hard time for freaking out about Charlotte and Ripley main eventing, I was never once disagreeing with the fact that the tag titles is the best story. The tag titles deserve to be in the main event. All I was saying is that if for some reason that's not the case, I'm not going to act like an unstable twat about it. I can handle my emotions. I can manage this in my head. And I can say, okay, well, that sucks, but there might be somewhere better it can be. Why can't it be on night 2? What if it opens night 2? Tag match opens, main event, Cody and Roman closes. The entire night 2 is sandwiched by 2 big bloodline losses. What's wrong with that? Why is that so unacceptable? But I'm with you. If you believe the tag team title should main event night 1, I think that's a perfect place for the match. I'm just not dead set that the entire WrestleMania weekend is ruined if that doesn't happen. But the closer we get to Mania without an announcement on this makes me think that Triple H really is going to put the tag team title match in the main event. So I'm kind of changing my stance from last week, where last week it did kind of feel that maybe it was going to be Charlotte and Rhea. Now I feel like it's going to be the Usos, Kevin Owens, and Sami Zayn. That's what should probably close night 1, and I kind of think it will. But if it doesn't, I'm not going to be jumping off the Coronado Bridge. Greg will be just fine, and guess what? The world will just keep on a-spinning, believe it or not. So just chill. But like I said, when it comes to Rhea and Charlotte, I have maintained for weeks now, ever since the Royal Rumble, when Rhea Ripley picked Charlotte as her opponent, I said, give me the Cena and Brock SummerSlam squash. That's what I want. That's what I want. That is what will do the best for Rhea Ripley. It'll be a great moment for her, a great moment for the fans. And if you do that, that would be a weird place to do it in the main event, since technically Rhea Ripley is a heel. You could do that in the undercard and allow Owens, Zayn, and the Usos to have that main event spot. You can totally do it that way. Hopefully, WWE does. I give Triple H the benefit of the doubt. Anything that Vince McMahon is never going to think like the fans, but Triple H, he's got a lot of that Vince stuff in him too, but he's definitely more likely to see things like this and have this foresight than Vince McMahon. Once he gets an idea, he just sticks with it. Triple H is a guy that's probably thinking a little bit about this. And do you honestly think the backstage in those creative meetings, when Triple H is sitting there with the Bruces and everybody else, that nobody is bringing up that the tag match should main event? I think if anybody brings this up, I can't see Triple H saying, nah, we don't want the tag match in the main event. That wouldn't be good. Let's go with Rhea and Charlotte. Like, do you see that being a possibility? I kind of don't. So if we are all thinking that the tag match would be perfect for a night one main event, guess what? WWE is probably thinking that too. So let's just see. But in terms of what they set up here, it didn't fill me with a main event feeling with Charlotte's promo. As a matter of fact, she was getting a bit rattled by the fans who were wutting her to death. So she didn't like any of that, and we never even had Rhea Ripley come out. My favorite part of all of last night was what happened with Rey Mysterio and Dominic. So Rey took on LA Knight in a match. Dominic came out to the ring, distracted Rey, allowing LA Knight to roll him up and beat him. So LA Knight beat Rey Mysterio on Friday night. And after the match, Dominic then gets on the mic. Rey's leaving, and Rey's family is at ringside. Is Angie and Aaliyah. Now, last week on SmackDown, Dominic, or maybe on Monday, Dominic alluded to asking mommy, or he's gonna confront his mother about this. Now, I had been pitching Rey refusing to lay his hands on Dominic, refusing a match at WrestleMania against Dominic until Dominic jumps and attacks him during his Hall of Fame induction speech. As if Dominic jumps up on the stage and attacks him, and Rhea takes out Conan with a punch and ruins Rey's moment, I can see Edge and whoever else, any other baby faces in the audience, running up there to run off Rhea and Dom, and then Rey pulls himself up to the podium and then finally agrees to the match. I will see you tomorrow. But once Dominic said he's going to confront his mother, I'm like, well, that's going to be it. I was like, as soon as Dominic gets in his mom's face, that's probably what's going to push Rey over the edge. And Dominic was giving shit to his mom and to his sister. And finally, Rey, I forgot what Dominic said that just said enough with Rey. Rey was kind of, I think he was leaving the match. He was in the aisleway, and then he kind of turns around and starts walking back to the ringside area towards Dominic, and he's walking towards him pretty quickly, and you knew it was going to happen too. And Dominic kind of like stretches his arms out like, what are you going to do about it? And Rey unloads with a hell of a punch. I think that punch was so well executed and sold by Rey and Dominic. The crowd exploded. It was such a great moment for Rey. I mean, we've all been feeling it. It has been one of the better storylines that WWE's done in quite some time. This storyline has not been getting and been given, well, I guess it has been given the credit, because we've all been loving what Dominic and Rhea have been doing, crashing Thanksgiving, crashing Christmas, crashing Valentine's Day. That stuff's all been great, but the bloodline stuff has been so strong, we're almost forgetting how great this storyline is. And I would make a pitch for Rey and Dominic to main event night one. I would. I think it's a story that deserves that type of a spotlight. Now, I don't think it's gonna. I think it's probably going to be on night two, but you could definitely make a case for it in terms of the strength of the story being told. I think Rey and Dominic and the tag team title match both deserve to be in the main event spot of night one over Charlotte and Rhea Ripley. But again, if it turns out to be Charlotte and Rhea Ripley, Greg will survive, and so will you. So now that we have the match, Rey decks Dominic. Dominic looks shocked. He gets on the mic. He goes, "You push me and you push me. That's it. You want your match. You got it. I will see you at WrestleMania." So the match is now on, Rey and Dominic. I cannot wait to see that. I am assuming that Rey is going to win this match, but hell, Dominic might beat him. I don't know. I don't know where the storyline is going to go, what Rey and Dom, what their desire is here, because we were all calling for them to win the tag team titles a couple of years ago at WrestleMania, and now they actually get a WrestleMania match against each other. I don't know what Rey wants to do with the storyline before he retires. I mean, I'm assuming that the way they want this story to run and the course it to take is for Rey and Dom to have their feud, WrestleMania match, maybe even another one. WrestleMania might not be the only match between these two. We might get a couple of them, and then when it's done, you have to wonder if we're going to get maybe an abandoned Dominic, who his mommy has left him now. Rhea is gone. Rhea's the champion, and her focus is elsewhere. Judgment Day, because you got to remember, I think Rhea Ripley and Finn Balor are both going to win at WrestleMania. So if Ripley is the new champion and the demon Finn Balor defeats one of WWE's Hall of Fame performers and Dominic loses, that could leave him on the outs to where then he's trying to prove himself back to the Judgment Day by trying to take out his dad even more, and he continues to lose to him. Finally, he's abandoned with nowhere else to go, and Ray accepts him back, and we get a Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens type of hug and reunion between the two, something like that, to where they're on good terms before Rey Mysterio officially retires or whatever's going on there. So it depends on how long they're going to stretch this out, but I feel like Rey has got to win the first one at WrestleMania, but a lot of people feel like Dominic might beat him. I just don't know yet. My predictions are Thursday, so I'll make a decision by then. The final segment was a really nice KO show with Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. Kevin Owens gifted Sami Zayn a shirt with KO Mania and Zayn-a-Mania or whatever it said on the back. Very reminiscent of Sami getting the honorary Uso shirt from the Bloodline. Big smile on his face. A lot of fun. They were then attacked by the Usos, but they were able to recover, and Owens ran them off with a chair and kind of a stare down, I believe, to close the show. So we got one more week of TV left. We got Monday, Go Home Raw. Friday, Go Home SmackDown, which also is going to have the Andre the Giant Battle Royal and the Hall of Fame. Help me out. Who's going to the Hall of Fame this year? Who do we have? Great Muta, Rey Mysterio. I literally don't know anybody else. Oh, Andy Kaufman, Rey Mysterio, Great Muta, Andy Kaufman. Who else? Who am I missing? Help me with the Hall of Fame. I didn't write down the Hall of Fame stuff, and it's 1 week away, and I only know of 3 people going in. Did we get a confirmation on Stacy Keibler or no? I'm not sure on that one either. I don't have any Hall of Fame info written down. We'll talk about it in a minute. Let me say hello to JW. Appreciate that $1.99, man. Cena should beat Theory at WrestleMania 39. Well, why do you say that, Jay? Why should Cena beat Theory if he's going to go be making movies? Why would you want John Cena to take the U.S. title off of TV for months? Because that's essentially what would happen. I'm right on board with you, Jay. If John Cena's sticking around and he can work TVs for 2 months and work a small program, then yes, 1,000% have him beat Theory. But I don't think that's going to happen. This is match 1 of WrestleMania. This tells me Cena's going to come in, do his job, and fly the fuck out of there to go to his movie set and continue his second career. That's what that tells me. I could be wrong, but I'm on board with your idea in the sense that Cena is a regular full-time competitor, but he's not. He's part-time Cena, super part-time Cena, who might be bouncing out of WrestleMania before it even gets going. So him winning the U.S. title, I'd love nothing more than Cena to return to Monday Night Raw and do his open challenges. But Jay, I don't think that's going to happen, man. I don't think it's going to happen. Even if you don't like Austin Theory, which I do, but I can see why people don't. Still, it doesn't make much sense where we sit right now for Cena to win at this point, but you never know. Max Pokebra, I owe you 2. Appreciate the 2 $5 super chats. Let's start with that top one. I would love for Theory to retain over Cena and then defend the title on night 2, losing to either Montez Ford or Braun Breaker. That's pretty good. Your other super chat right under that says, I don't mind the Women's Rumble on night 1 and Men's Rumble on night 2, but I think the world and women's titles should be fully unified. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, and that's where we thought they might be going when we heard the Rhea Ripley and Charlotte rumors is, oh, maybe that means that they want to be able to say that the winner of the Women's Rumble gets to main event of WrestleMania. But I don't think you want to book yourselves into a corner that way, and you want to save your main events just in case you have some sort of storyline or match that just overshadows everything. Obviously, save night 2 for your world title main event, but you can play a little bit with that night 1 main event. It doesn't necessarily have to be the women, but I can see why WWE would want to make sure the women have a main event in as many WrestleMania years as possible. No problem. But I don't want to put the women in the main event just for the sake of putting them in the main event if you have some other story like the tag title match that would be perfect for that, or like Ray and Dom. Help me out. Who main evented last year? Night 2 was Austin and Owens, right? Was main event of night 2. So they didn't go with the women's title match last year, right? I don't have this mixed up in my head, right? So I feel like they haven't really started that trend yet, so there's really no reason why it has to be Rhea and Charlotte, unless this is what WWE wants to start doing. We don't know. Scroll up here and get this other one from earlier. Oh, yeah, I already got that one from you, Max. Okay, so I've got that one. I've got those other two. I got Jay's. And where'd I leave off with Clofic? Good to see you. Appreciate that super chat from you as well, my friend. Don't know if you're much into reading, but Steve Kern's new book is supposedly really good. P.S. This Mania feels a lot like 8 with the missed opportunities. Yeah, it kind of does, right? Steve Kern, I am not surprised at all, has a great book. That boy has got some stories. He has been everywhere, worked everywhere, in the ring, behind the camera, multiple territories, knows everybody, respected, good hand, well-traveled. I could imagine that his book would be pretty good. That's awesome. I will maybe try to take a look at that one day. I haven't read a book in quite a while. Maybe Bob Holly's book was the last one I read, and that one was really good. So I'll try to give Steve Kern's book a look next time I'm traveling, or if I'm on a plane or a flight or something and I got some time to kill, I'll read. But I generally don't just sit here in my house and read. I just got too much shit to do. But you're right about the WrestleMania 8 comparison. Reese Jones, thank you, man. Shoot, brother. Remember, for 7 months, WWE might have Cena win so they can say he is tied with Ric Flair in both world titles and U.S. titles. I wasn't aware that he could tie Ric Flair for the U.S. titles as well. They could, but that would mean, Reese, that Cena would probably have to return to TV somewhat soon to drop it back, because I just can't see Cena being a regular fixture on TV right now with his movie schedule. So it's going to be a weird world if he is to beat Theory, but what a way to get Theory over, or launch Theory, have him beat Cena. But Cena's been losing a lot when he's been showing back up. Zach, good to see you, my friend. Appreciate the $5. What if they have Cena beat Theory on night 1 and he holds an open challenge on night 2 and puts someone like AJ Styles over for the belt? I'm loving these ideas. Although I don't think Cena is going to do that. I think if there's going to be a double title defense, it's going to be Theory. So maybe Theory beats Cena, and then he's riding so high on confidence, he comes out on night 2 and lays out a challenge to somebody. Could be a good spot for Bobby Lashley. He comes out, hurt locks Austin, and takes the U.S. title back from him, and then maybe you book a return between the two, and Lashley drops it back to him. I think that they should put Lashley in the King of the Ring and have him win it in Saudi Arabia. Maybe do that for Lashley, a little consolation prize for his hard work and his bad luck that he suffered from. So I do like any idea that would involve some sort of a surprise, like Theory coming out the next night, or Cena, and having a championship match against a returning star. When you think of AJ Styles, Randy Orton, Riddle, whoever the hell else is out there injured right now, anybody that you could bring back if they're healthy enough, it would be great to have some surprises tomorrow night. It would be great to see Stone Cold Steve Austin come out. I don't know how this guy can be in the main event wrestling match of that show last year and not even appear this year. WWE didn't call him. Why not? It would be great to have Austin there. Hogan's not going to be there. Rock's not going to be there. So bring out Austin. Have something fun happen. Usually at WrestleMania, we get some sort of fun special segment or moment in the match. Last year, we got Triple H retiring and Vince McMahon taking a stunner. Years ago, we had Hogan, Austin, Rock in the ring drinking beer together. We had Rock and Ronda Rousey that one year in 2015. A lot of years, they do some sort of fun segment like that. And that's what I'm hoping we get this year. We get some sort of collection of legends. Maybe we get Rock and Austin both showing up and having a beer bash together or something like that. It would be cool if we could get some sort of a segment like that, whether it be in the ring or on or backstage, some sort of moment. But I'm liking the Braun Breaker idea as well, because Braun is scheduled to, who's he wrestling again? Has he got to put the title on the line at Stand and Deliver? He probably is not going to lose it there. I always thought he was going to lose it to Grayson Waller, but Grayson's got to take on Johnny Gargano, right? Sorry, I'm not very keyed into NXT. But Braun Breaker feels like he'd be an excellent night after WrestleMania debut, and you could have him come out and win a championship, but then you're putting him over awfully quick there, and he's got a belt around his waist right off the bat. Nowhere to go but down from there. So if you're bringing Braun Breaker in, I'm going to make sure I'm using him at the best possible place where I have a plan for him. Monique, appreciate the $7. I'll be in Toronto for Forbidden Door. Have you ever traveled outside of the U.S. for a wrestling show? No, I've never been to a wrestling show outside of the U.S. The closest I was was in the Bahamas for Dynamite on the Jericho Cruise. That's the closest I've been. So I guess technically, yeah. But never been to Toronto or to Canada for a show, and that would be really fun. Monique, I'm jealous. Forbidden Door sold out or came close to selling out very quickly, and that's going to be a jam-packed house in June for that show. Oh, that's right, Carmelo Hayes. Oh, and that's one-on-one. I don't know why I thought it was a three-way. Well, shit. Put Carmelo Hayes over. Carmella. Put Carmelo Hayes over. Have him beat Braun Breaker, win the title, and then send Braun Breaker to the main roster on Monday. That I'd be into. Yeah. Let's put the belt on Carmelo Hayes. That dude's fucking awesome. He's going to have to get to the main roster at some point, so he should be the next guy to carry the belt. So maybe Braun passes it to Carmelo. Breaker goes to the main roster. Carmelo has a run and then passes it to Grayson Waller. And then Carmelo goes to the main roster. So I think maybe the loser of that gets called up. What do you say? What do you say? That's what I say. Let's take a quick look at our WrestleMania card. Here's what we're looking at. Where'd it go? Where'd my WrestleMania card go? Come back. There it is. WrestleMania. I hope I have all the matches here. Here's 3, 6, 9. It looks like 13, and I think that's what we've got. We have the men's and women's WrestleMania showcase matches. These are 2 8 men and women tags. All 4 teams in the men's match have been announced. There's one still missing from the women's match. Don't know who that's going to be yet. Trish, Lita, and Becky Lynch are teaming up to take on Damage Control in a 6-woman tag. 2 of these women are tag team champions. There's been some talk about some sort of angle transpiring here where we might get a heel turn. We might get someone turning on someone. That would kind of be cool. Otherwise, this just feels like a feel-good 6-woman match to give the fans a nice moment to watch 3 pretty well-loved baby faces, 1 current, 2 legends, put down 3 obnoxious heels. You got to give us more than that. So I think there is going to be more than that to that match. Finn Balor and Edge, Hell in a Cell, looking forward to that one. The Demon's going to beat Edge. I can feel it. Asuka and Bianca Belair, I'm going to go ahead and, even though I'm not doing my predictions until Thursday, Bianca retaining her title all the way here. I just don't see a scenario where Asuka winning would do anything. I mean, Asuka's got her new look and everything, but Bianca and Asuka's build has been no better than Charlotte and Rhea's. And I'm making WrestleMania about Rhea Ripley winning the title. I don't want to have another woman winning a championship that she has to share the spotlight with, you know? Let's make it about Rhea beating, murdering, squashing Charlotte to hell on night 1, main event or not, and then Bianca quietly retains her title by KODing and pinning Asuka on night 2. That's the way I'd book that. Rey Mysterio and Dominic is now official, so that's going to be a super fun match. IC title on the line with Gunther defending against Drew McIntyre and Sheamus. Now, Gunther is only 160-something days away from breaking Honky Tonk Man's record. He will break Honky Tonk Man's Intercontinental Championship record, I believe, on September 8th or September 9th. He either ties it on the 8th and breaks it on the 9th or something like that. He's almost there. Drew and Sheamus, I would love to see both of these guys walk out with the Intercontinental title at WrestleMania, but I also think Gunther is so dominant and he's such a magnificent champion. I would still just run with him, but we'll talk about that on Thursday. Brock and Omos, we also have Rollins versus Logan Paul, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn taking on the Usos for the unified tag team titles, Rhea Ripley versus Charlotte, John Cena versus Austin Theory, which we know is going to be opening night 1, and Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns. And I put up a Twitter post last night that's been getting a pretty good response from fans. People are liking my idea. It's an idea that I've had for years and I've been talking about for years, but I put in a Twitter post last night about championship belts. We've heard some rumors about championship belt redesigns. We've even heard rumors about Cody maybe bringing back the Winged Eagle title, since he once did bring back the classic Intercontinental title. Cody also owns in his possession the WWE Championship belt that his dad competed for but did not win against superstar Billy Graham back in the 70s. Cody owns that belt. I would love, if Cody became champion, for him to bring that belt to TV. Maybe not necessarily wear it as the championship belt, but at least bring it to TV. And we've talked about how terrible and ugly and soulless and excruciatingly boring the current crop of WWE Championship belts are, and how sick of them we all are, and how it would be so cool if we could get some belt redesigns. So I posted last night about pitching an idea, since there are a lot of rumors that the Universal and WWE title are going to be de-unified or ununified or split back up at some point. How they do that is still yet to be determined, but they could do it at the draft, or they could just do it in some sort of an announcement. But whatever they do, in a perfect world, in Greg's world, you know what I would love nothing more than anything else is for the WWE title to become the Winged Eagle title, bring that back, and for the Universal title to become the Big Gold WCW belt. That's such a beautiful championship. Gunther's Intercontinental Championship belt is the ugliest damn thing I've ever seen. Bring back the classic IC. The women, you could revamp the women's championships, because they look just like the Universal and WWE. Give them a girlied up version of the Winged Eagle, and maybe a feminine version of the Big Gold, and revamp everything. And I think a full revamp, a modern revamp of all of the classic belt designs, the tag team title, the Intercontinental title, the world title, the Big Gold, the Winged Eagle, redesigning them in a modern way, but to have them resemble the classic belts of the past, I think would be a welcomed addition by any fan. I can't think of many fans that would reject that idea. It feels like such a win-win across the board, because something that simple, at least for a fan like me, would do a lot to help rejuvenate, replenish my optimism or my emotional investment in the product if I get to see some championship belts that I really enjoy looking at. I see no downside to this other than one, and that is those big damn initials required to be front and fucking center on literally everything WWE produces, from a marketing perspective. Their toys, their action figures, their shirts, their turnbuckle pads, the LED screens, everything has to have those WWE logos smeared on them right in the middle. And it's going to be hard if you have the Winged Eagle title and the Big Gold that doesn't really have those things so large and visible. It's going to be hard to make that decision, but you could still redesign these belts. You don't have to bring back the exact versions of them, but bring back a modern version of the Winged Eagle, a 2023 version of it, to where maybe the WWE letters are a little bit bigger, but it still resembles that old belt. And I think Cody would be the perfect guy to usher in this new era. We've seen championship belts change before, overnight, after WrestleMania. The Raw we're going to watch tomorrow does that. The night after WrestleMania 14, all of the belts changed. Well, the world title and the IC title changed. I believe they kept the tags the same. But that next night, Austin had the title, and then later on backstage, they interviewed The Rock, and he no longer had the classic IC. He had that new ugly thing. And I know a lot of fans like those belts. People love the 2002 Undisputed belt, the Big Gold belt, that new IC belt. Plenty of people like those belts. That's fine. But the classics are what's near and dear to my heart, and I think it would be so cool if they were able to redesign all of those belts, the classic designs of those belts, and give them a modern flavor. And think about all of the new replica merch they can now peddle. Now they got all these new belts that are brand new to throw up on WWE Shop and for fans to pay money for. Like I said, don't bring back the exact Winged Eagle because they're already for sale. You got to redesign them. Redesign the Winged Eagle, redesign the Big Gold, give them a modern flavor or vibe, but have them resemble and have a connection to the past, that nostalgia, and that link to the history of the business. And if you were to do a segment, let's say with Cody Rhodes the night after WrestleMania, he is the new WWE champion. He opens up Monday Night Raw, and he's got both of the titles. And while he's celebrating, we hear Triple H's music play. And Triple H comes down to the ring, and in one hand, he's got a trash can, and the other hand, he's got two black bags. He comes in the ring, goes, "Cody, can I see those two belts?" And he Medusas the two fucking belts right in the trash can. He opens up one bag and presents Cody with the Winged Eagle title. Here's the brand new WWE Championship. This is a championship that you wanted to hold because your dad never did. Oh, I have another surprise for you. Speaking of your dad, here's a belt that he did hold, and he pulls out the Big Gold. This is the new Universal Championship. This is a belt your dad held. That's the belt your dad did not hold. You are now the holder of both. And then after Cody soaks in the moment, Triple H just goes, "Okay, now it's time for the bad news. I'm going to need one of those back because we're going to hold a tournament for it, and we're splitting the belts up." So, do something like that to where you have like a little ceremony, or maybe Triple H gifts Cody Rhodes these new championships, maybe combining that with an announcement of however they're going to decide to ununify these things, whatever decision that is, whatever direction they decide to go in, a match, a tournament, if they just flat out strip them, if they do a funny, wonky finish, that gives Cody the win, but maybe gives Paul Heyman a reason to sue in the courts, and they have a clause that says, okay, Roman is still Universal Champion because of the finish. They could do a lot of different things. But I think it would be so fun if Triple H gave that to the fans and said, you know, with all of our problems right now and issues fans have with the product, I just think giving the fans championship belts like that, it seems like a minor detail. I know it does, but it would make the world a difference to somebody like me. Maybe not everybody. Maybe people don't care about the belts. Maybe some people think that the look of the belts aren't that bad. Maybe some people think the current belts aren't even ugly. Maybe they love them. I mean, WWE does sell a shitload of them on WWE Shop, but I think just a nice little facelift would be a welcome change. And I think it's something that would breathe new life into the product, give fans something fresh. And plus, you know, you have a company that's so old and has so many more years than, say, AEW. You know, WWE's 50 years older than AEW. They should want to connect with and highlight that history. You know, when you can show clips of matches from 35 years ago where the dude is holding essentially the same title belt, I think that's cool. But not everybody feels that way, and WWE's marketing team might not feel that way either. But that's what I would do with the championship belt. Triple H, get on that. Get on that for us, please. Oh, we got Juliet, member for 4 months. Appreciate it. Favorite women's title is the Attitude Era women's belt. Yeah, that one was okay. I didn't hate that one. Max Pokebruh, $5 more from you. Triple H makes the tournament for the big gold. Lashley wins the tournament. Gunther wins the Money in the Bank. Breaks Honky's record. Cashes in on Lashley. I love it. I would love Gunther to keep the IC until he breaks Honky's record. I would give Gunther a very dominant performance in War Games, and I'd have Gunther win the Rumble. You could also do that. But Gunther winning the Money in the Bank, think of the pop he will get. I still think a Money in the Bank, a good Money in the Bank main event would be Cody Rhodes versus Sami Zayn. I do. I think it would be fun. Notre Dame, national champ. Appreciate the $5. Unrelated to wrestling, but do you watch March Madness? And if so, what do you think about San Diego State making the Elite Eight? I loved it. Everybody in my bar last night was going nuts watching that game. I think that's the first time a number one seed has not made the Elite Eight. That's nuts. But yeah, go Aztecs. We're rooting for them. And I didn't even fill out a bracket. I don't really care about March Madness anymore. I haven't filled out a bracket in months because all brackets is your favorite team going all the way to the finals and winning it, right? So I just don't waste time with that. I was rooting for Michigan State. They got knocked out. Now, my number 2 is San Diego State. Let's see how far they make it. And if they win that thing as a 7 seed or whatever they are, that would be pretty incredible. But thanks for being here, Notre Dame. Did I miss anybody else? Oh, who's this fucker? Oh, thank you for... See, that's why we have mods, to delete stupid ass comments from Marshmallow Fuckboy. Let's go to his shitty channel with 3 subscribers. And let's block him. 3 subscribers. Way to go, Marshmallow. Even his handle is loser. It says @loser764. Way to go, loser. All right, the Marshmallow loser is here, and he is now gone. But it is now the bottom of the hour, and I have to go to work. I don't want to. I'd like to sit here longer and talk more wrestling with you guys, but I got shit to do. I got to go pay them bills, but tomorrow we're going to be back. We'll be live. Don't forget, if you are a member, join us 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific right here. We're going to be watching that Monday Night Raw I just talked about the night after WrestleMania 14. And then tomorrow night, we'll be here for everyone to watch WrestleMania 14. Long days of classic watch-alongs tomorrow. So it's going to be fun. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. I appreciate it. Have a great rest of your Saturday evening, and I hope you guys have a great weekend. And I'm looking real forward to seeing you guys tomorrow.